Hello, everyone, and welcome to IPS 82, Lessons Learned from Transforming Evidence to Action for Capacity Development through the LISA 2020 Network. I'm Kim Love, and I'm the Program Monitoring Specialist for the LISA 2020 Network. This network has established 30 statistical laboratories in 10 developing countries and is continuing to add rapidly to those numbers. Under sub-awards from a USAID grant, 3 LISA 2020 Stat Labs have pursued capacity development projects that have made great strides in transforming evidence to action through collaborative partnerships with policy actors. In this session, the coordinators of each of these labs will share challenges, successes, and lessons learned associated with the implementation of these projects. Professor Olusanya Olubusoye from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria will speak first and will discuss UI-LISA's project Enhancing Electoral Participation in Nigeria. Professor Atinuke Adebanji from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology will speak next and will discuss KNUST-LISA's Building Capacity of Female Scientists in Data Analysis for Decision-Making and Strategic Planning. Finally, Professor Bhaswati Ganguli from the University of Calcutta will discuss using data science to support renewable energy projects in India. The session will end with discussion from Professor Vance, the founder and global director of the LISA 2020 Network. Welcome again to the session, and I hope you enjoy the presentations.
My name is Olubusoye. I'm the coordinator of University of Ibadan Laboratory for Interdisciplinary Statistical Analysis. The STAT Lab is located in the Department of Statistics, University of Ibadan, southwestern Nigeria. I'll be sharing with you about the lessons learned in transforming evidence to action, LISA 2020 USAID-funded project titled Enhancing Election Participation in Nigeria. Our local partner in the project is the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, through its research and training unit, the Electoral Institute. The T concept tends to situate STAT labs between development challenges, knowledge creation through the collection of evidence, and feeding the policymakers, development actors, and researchers to enable them transform the society and improve the quality of life. STAT labs are supposed to be engine of transformation. It is the responsibility of the STAT labs to be conscious of the development challenges within their vicinity and mobilize resources to gather reliable, useful, timely, and relevant evidence to assist the policy actors. For UI-LISA, the development challenge observed at the national level revolves around election participation. Participation in elections in Nigeria is usually the end of a process. The starting point of the process involves participation in the continuous voter registration exercise organized by INEC. If the participation is successful, then the name of the citizen is included in the voter register. Only those listed in the voter register are qualified to participate in the voting exercise. The process poses several developmental challenges, which include: 1, being eligible to participate in CVR, but unable because of systemic or self-imposed hindrances. 2, problem of compromised voter register, which could eventually lead to the third problem, that is, unwillingness to participate in the final stage of voting. So, in our study, the first objective was to investigate the causes of non-participation in the CVR exercise. The reasons found in the study were provided in the box, on the right-hand side. The second objective focused on the voter register. We interrogated the register to determine, one, proportion of under 18 registrants. We found just 12% of our sample cases to be underage. Two, proportion of dead registrants. We found just 1.25% of our sample cases to be dead registrants. Three, proportion of registrants whose addresses have changed. We found 12.36% of our sample cases to have relocated to a new address not known to the electoral body. The third objective examines the causes of non-participation in the voting exercise. As a preliminary investigation, we examine accreditation status and voting status. To the credit of INEC, we found no one to have voted without being accredited. However, 1.2% of the sampled voters got accredited but never participated in the final stage of voting. On the causes of non-participation in the voting, the 5 topmost ones are listed on the screen. Now, regarding the lessons, I have grouped them under 4 C's: connecting, collaborating, communicating, and creating. Although under connecting, I will share our experience on how we got connected with our local partner and policy actor, INEC. How smooth was the process? What were the challenges? And how we addressed them, and then draw lessons. Under collaborating, I will share how we work together to achieve a common goal and produce results. Under communicating, I will explain how we carry the stakeholders along and inform, and I will also draw some lessons. Finally, under creating, I will discuss about the dissemination of the research outcomes and the sustainability of the existing partnership. Connecting with INEC took about 3 months, due largely to lack of understanding of the protocols and administrative procedure within the agency. Rather than connecting with the secretary to the commission, we were making fruitless effort to connect with the honorable chairman of the commission. Also, we were requesting for a courtesy visit to see the chairman when we should have just stated our mission and specific request. When connecting was becoming impossible, we used pressure groups facilitated by LISA 2020 Director, Professor Vance. He facilitated our contact with INEC through USAID Washington, USAID Nigeria, and the International Foundation for Electoral Systems. For me, the lessons from connecting are: if you don't initiate the connection with policy actors, you may never be connected. 2, combine multiple approaches to achieve the connection. 3, don't be discouraged or feel disappointed for any reason. The real challenge in collaborating with policy actors is the consensual power imbalance. The collaborating partners are not equal in any way. The policy actor is often the dominating partner, partly because of the desire to receive their full cooperation to ensure that your project is executed successfully as planned. In our case, INEC was not going to make any financial commitment to the project, despite being the ultimate beneficiary. Sometimes also, opinions are sharply divided, and at times, needed information are considered classified. The solution we adopted was to accommodate whatever was possible, particularly on the budget side. We also often accepted their opinion. The lessons for START labs are many. The leadership must show competency on the subject matter and be technically sound. The START lab team leadership must be honest, transparent, accountable, open, and trustworthy in sustaining the collaboration. Communicating is very key. It must be comprehensive, truthful, and timely. In our project, we had to communicate with three major stakeholders, namely University of Ibadan, Research Management Office, the INEC through the Electoral Institute, and USAID through LISA 2020. The whole essence of communication is to give updates, inform about the challenges and the future plans. Through the guidance of the LISA 2020 monitoring and evaluation experts, we developed 8 monitoring and reporting indicators listed on the screen. Generating this monthly report and compiling the data for computing the indicators can be intimidating. The lessons here include START lab leaders must delegate and share responsibilities. They must be organized and keep records. They must leverage on the cloud storage technology such as Google Drive, Google Doc, Google Photo, Dropbox, Slack, etc. Finally, the transforming evidence to action must create shareable knowledge. The form to share the knowledge could be a challenge. Second, sustaining the collaboration to improve on the existing knowledge is also another challenge. Thus, we have produced 2 publications, policy briefs, and a monograph containing the full report of the project for easy dissemination and for future reference. To ensure sustainability, we are working together with our policy actor, INEC, through the Electoral Institute, to build the statistical capacity of their staff. START labs involved in T projects must think outside the box and far beyond the lifespan of the project. There must be a sustainability plan to sustain the collaboration and relevance of the lab. Here is the cover page of the monograph containing the full report of the study. Here is the cover page for the policy brief. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm speaking on lessons learned in transforming evidence to action. I'm speaking from KNUST-LISA. KNUST-LISA is at the Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, Ghana. My name is Atinuke Adebanji, and I'm the coordinator for the center. The T project has this objective, which is to build capacity of local LISA labs to identify and solve local development problems. For KNUST-LISA, we identify the paucity of females in leadership positions in STEM fields. And to solve this problem or to provide some kind of intervention, we propose a project, and our project is titled Building Capacity of Female Scientists in Data Analysis for Decision Making and Strategic Planning. Our project has the overall objective to build their data analysis capacity of the participants for policy decision making as well as for strategic planning, to develop their leadership capabilities, and provide a mentoring platform for the women in STEM to enhance their career progression. This was a theory of change we sought to implement. First workshop was to build their data acquisition and analysis, train them in scientific research, collaborative research, proposal writing, and to enhance their online feasibility as scientists. And this was targeted at increasing their research output. And then the second workshop focused on leadership skills, policy design, implementation, and evaluation, public speaking, and career progression management. And this was to increase their competence to aspire to leadership positions and or leadership roles in STEM fields. Finally, what we seek to observe or what we seek to achieve as our long-term output or intermediate output is to see increased research output, enrollment in higher degrees, and scholarships and research grants acquisition, as well as career progression, so that we can see more gender-inclusive research and appointment to leadership positions in Ghana. So for our project, we collaborated with these three institutions, the KNUST School of Public Health, the Science, Technology, and Innovation Directorate of MESTI. MESTI is the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation in Ghana. We also collaborated with some centers of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in Ghana. The timeline for our project was 2 years, which started from the fourth quarter of 2018, and it's ending this June, which is the second quarter of 2021. For our program, for our workshops, we had pre-workshop surveys and post-workshop surveys. And in between the two workshops, we had online on-the-job assessment. We did some online as well as in-person assessment, where we went to the organizations where the scientists are working to see how much of what they have learned is being utilized on their work or in their research. And then we're presently in the 1-year post-training phase. During our implementation, what are the lessons we learned? As a center, we learned to our teamwork greatly improved, because we were taking on a new project, and then we had to learn how to work together better in the synergy, and that was one very good thing, which has improved our relationship as well as our teamwork in the lab. Another thing that we learned is implementing feedback, both from the participants as well as from bigger LISA 2020 body, because we were reporting to them. So we could also take feedback to improve the second workshop based on the first workshop. And for our second workshop, the participants were actively involved in designing the structure of the workshop. Also, seeking human resource. We learned to find the best persons, which might not necessarily be in the lab, but we had to go beyond our lab, especially when it came to finding persons in career progression and leadership training. We had to go outside the lab. So sourcing for human resource was another skill that we also learned. Another thing we learned on the project is how to manage participants' needs and expectations. Because both workshops, interestingly, we had pregnant women there. We had nursing mothers there. The first workshop was a bit, we were taken a bit off guard, because we did not expect to have a pregnant woman. We did not expect to also have a nursing mother. We had 2 of them, and they had come with their babysitters, so they had to room in with their babysitters, but we quickly learned on our feet, and then we were able to provide the kind of accommodation that was most suitable for them at the hotels where we had lodged them. Of course, we also learned how to keep proper records, and then to use the cloud advantage for storage of our records, and then our reporting. We had to report to to LISA 2020, but we did not directly report to the policy agency or the organizations we were collaborating with per se, but we kept MESTI informed about what was going on, because we were not directly involved with the policy makers. We were indirectly involved with them through the women who were participating with that. So our collaboration with policy actors was indirect, but not direct. But for the collaborating institutions, we were able to engage them directly, and we had to learn how to be proactive in this collaboration, initiating collaboration, and not necessarily waiting for them to engage us. So for our research, we had immediate things we wanted to see. We had short-term outputs as well, and we have the long-term outcomes. For the immediate, we wanted to see their data management and statistical analysis competencies, access to open source materials, and then for them to be able to manage their professional profile online. Those were immediate things that we saw. And the short term was the number of quality publications, and we track this and report regularly, quarterly to LISA 2020. We also have some grants that have been won by the female participants. We have 3 of them engineers who are now on their PhD programs and they have funding for that. We have one who is in plant physiology who has gotten a scholarship to go to the United States, and she's left. And we also have a team, 2 teams now, one in the pharmaceutical field who have collaborated and gotten a research grant to look at the resistance of antibiotics, and one got a research grant in collaboration with the biological sciences lady in the team, as well as an environmental engineer lady, who they have gotten a grant to look at waste management problem in Kumasi. And then we also want to look at the ability for them to track their career progression, and we're presently evaluating their career progression. For the long term, what we seek to see is the number of promotions or appointments to leadership positions. And one of our members has been promoted one, and then in another following year, she's been appointed to the council of our university in an elective position as a representative of the academic staff. And she's the first female to occupy that position in her university. We want to see a higher number of doctoral degrees by the participants, and we're hoping to see this when they begin to complete their programs. 3 of the participants were already enrolled on their PhD, so we're hoping that shortly they would also be graduating with their higher qualifications. About the number of institutional or government policy documents initiated that by our participants that we're yet to see, and we expect that this might take a while before it manifests, and that's about what we did in our project. For the acknowledgements, we would like to thank the funding agency, USAID, for providing the funding to LISA 2020 for the T project. I want to thank LISA 2020, the team of Eric Vance, Matt, as well as Kim Love. They have been very supportive and very fantastic people to work with. My institution for giving us the time and the space to run our lab as well as to implement the project. The KNUST-LISA team, they're a fantastic group of persons, and I want to thank them. Also want to acknowledge our collaborating partners. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of the conference. Adios.
The theme of my talk today is the lessons learned in transforming evidence into action. And the context is provided by a project whose objective was to boost the usage of data science in the clean energy sector in India. This was a multi-centric project, and the brief for the project was to boost the usage of data science in an area in which USAID was active in that country. You see here a report from the Ministry of External Affairs, which highlights the cooperation between the United States and India in the field of renewable energy, which is why we decided to focus on this area. The current administration in India provides a lot of priority to the issue of digitization. You see here an advertisement for RAISE 2020. This is now an annual summit for promoting artificial intelligence in governance organized by the Indian government. Umang is a one-stop mobile application for providing an interface for the citizen to interact with the government. You also see a photo of the then Power Minister releasing a mobile phone application called Urja, which provides all thermal power related energy for the urban consumer. Unfortunately, this effort to boost the technology has not been accompanied by a commensurate effort in making the data thus collected available to the scientific community. And this was the first hurdle we ran into while implementing the project. We needed to identify a collaborator, and we proceeded about this using the twin planks of organizing joint workshops with stakeholders and internships. One of our collaborators thus identified was the Center for Green Energy. This was a member of the SRRA network in India. The SRRA network is a network of monitoring stations which collects data on meteorological covariates, but also on GHI, global horizontal irradiance, which is a measure of solar radiation. The data is by no means perfect. There are many missing values and there are some suspicious figures, but it provided the starting point which we needed. Our collaborator suggested that we focus on the issue of medium-term forecasting. The benchmark methodology followed in this field is that of numeric weather prediction. And in order to make an impression upon the energy researcher, we needed to show them how data science can supplement the learning from such models. This slide provides a list of this. So specifically, data science can contribute a better estimate of the uncertainty in estimation. It can provide post-model fitting diagnostics. It can provide data-driven parameter choices rather than ad hoc ones. And it can also provide a probabilistic model for a probabilistic framework for model updating. We started out by using the standard Arima model, but this did not perform well, or rather, it performed well for the location of Kolkata, which is located near the Tropic of Cancer. However, when the same model was applied to a coastal location with more erratic weather, it tended to carry forward the last observation. The solution was provided by the class of models known as Bayesian structural time series. So this is a class of models which addresses the issue of serial correlation by using latent effects. It is not a single model, but a family of models which addresses several concerns with such kind of data, such as modeling autocorrelation, seasonality, local trends, and the impact of temporally varying confounders. This worked for us in the sense that it was not a single model which worked for all locations, but at every location which we tried, one member of this family of models provided a good estimate. As this was a joint project with the Department of Computer Science, we also tried several approaches based on neural networks. Specifically, we tried to address the issue of the erratic behavior of convective clouds by using a clustering algorithm and by developing a method which was based on clustering based on cloud regime, accompanied by an implementation of the LSTM. The hybrid algorithm thus developed is now under consideration for publication. We also tried spatiotemporal models. The natural extension of the Bayesian time series models was to use latent effects to model spatial dependence. We used an approach which used tensor products with random coefficients. This results in a linear mixed model, and it has the advantages which are listed here. The complication, however, was elsewhere. The spatiotemporal modeling was enabled by merging two datasets. One was the meteorological covariates, which was provided by the MERA-2 satellite of NASA. The second was the GHI measurements, which were provided by the RE Explorer of USAID. While we were able to implement the spatiotemporal modeling, the issue was with its acceptability. The RE Explorer does not use actual observations of GHI, but model-driven estimates. and they were not acceptable to our then collaborator, the National Institute of Wind Energy. We have since developed a memorandum of understanding with the National Institute of Wind Energy. The overarching objective is again to boost the area of data, boost the application of data science. You see here specifically the objectives listed for the area of medium-term forecasting. So essentially, this objective constitutes of combining the information in NWPs, time series models, and sky camera images into an improved prediction model. Another collaborator suggested that we look at the issue of dust deposition on photovoltaic panels. Because we could not find any measurements on dust deposition, we instead considered ambient air pollution as a proxy. We ran into two issues here. One was the high dimension of the optimum predictive model. You see here a list of the best ranked predictors in terms of variable importance. The list includes quite a lot of interactions. The second issue was how to explain the implications of a table like this to an energy researcher. We came up with the idea of supplementing the table by visualization. You see here two panels which correspond to two contrasting sets of meteorological parameters and ambient pollution levels. Without going into the details, you should be able to see that rough behavior in the first three panels leads to rough behavior in the GHI, which is shown in the fourth panel, and correspondingly, smooth behavior of the meteorological parameters and ambient pollution leads to smoother predictions for the GHI. We found this to be a more effective means of communication than the tables which were outputted by our optimum model. Finally, another learning from this project has been the scope for linkages. You see here two pieces of output. One is an exercise in modeling electricity access using World Bank data for countries across the world. It is being currently implemented in collaboration with our center from Nigeria. You see another model of HIV test data from Ghana. This is not in the area of energy modeling, but the common interest is in developing spatial models. So thank you for your time. I hope you found this informative.
Thank you for attending this session and for sticking around. This is the invited paper session 82, Transforming Evidence to Action, and this is my discussion. So I am Eric Vance. I'm the director of LISA, the Laboratory for Interdisciplinary Statistical Analysis at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I'm the global director of the LISA 2020 program. And I was fortunate, along with you, to have heard three excellent talks. The first was Professor Olubusoye, talking about how his lab, UI-LISA, collaborated with INEC, the Nigerian Election Commission, to dig into, understand the drivers of participation and non-participation in Nigerian elections. And we heard from Professor Atinuke Adebanji from KNUST about her project to train mid-career women in science and to train them in statistics and leadership. And then, of course, we just heard from Professor Ganguli from University of Calcutta about her and her team's work with renewable energy and modeling energy and coming up with better ways to forecast solar irradiance and other forms of renewable energy. So we heard three examples, three case studies of projects of transforming evidence to action. And so I'm going to do a wider discussion and talk about kind of in general what we're talking about. So our goal as statisticians, as the stat labs, is to transform evidence into action for sustainable development. And by that, I mean we want to transform evidence or data. We want to analyze data and make that actionable. And what kind of action? We're talking about research, business and policy decisions, and the implementations of these data-driven decisions. And we want to do that for sustainable development. And by development, we kind of really mean, just in general, development are sustainable actions that positively impact society. So scientific and research innovations are examples. Creating jobs for sustainable activities, collaborating with business and industry is an example of development. And then implementing effective policies. So creating the policies and then implementing them. And these actions are all something that statisticians can really help with. So when we talk about data-driven development, we mean something that has 4 elements. So it all starts with domain expertise in asking the right questions, in framing a problem that's appropriate, that will lead to development. And then within that, so assuming that we have that domain expertise and we're asking the right questions, there's the production of data, then there's the analysis of that data, and then there's using that analysis, those results, to make data-driven decisions. And so these are 3 players: the data producers, the data analyzers, and the data decision makers. And they all come together to create the data-driven development. Now, specifically, statistics can enable and accelerate the building of capacity for data-driven development in all 3 of these areas. And if we focus on the intersections, we end up multiplying our potential and our power as statisticians and data scientists. So what I mean, I can actually talk through some examples. At UI, they collaborated with INEC, who produce data. They produce the voter registration forms. They compile all the data on the elections. They run the elections as well. So they actually are policymakers in addition to that. But in the project that Professor Olubusoye described, there were 2 components. The first component was doing a survey or producing data on a selection of voters and non-voters and understanding what was driving their voting behavior. And so the statisticians worked with the data producers. And we actually, I always think of the statisticians, like our main job often as National Statistics Office type of statisticians, are to analyze data. That's what most people come to me for, is help with analyzing data. But they also come for help in producing or collecting data. So working in the intersections is the best way, I think, to accelerate data-driven development. So in the case of UI, they worked with INEC, who are actually both data producers and they're the policymakers. They are data decision makers. And so UI was working in this orange intersection. And because of that, because they're helping collect data, they're analyzing the data, and then they're helping to use that analysis to drive better policy, they are in the sweet spot of data-driven development. For the next project we heard about at KNUST, they were doing a workshop, 2 workshops, part 1 and part 2, for policymakers generally. I mean, there were also some scientists in that group, and I would consider scientists maybe are the data producers. They're collecting data, and then they need help with statistics to analyze that data. But if we can always remember that our ultimate goal is to transform the evidence into action, then we can somehow rope in or collaborate with a third party, the data decision makers, and work in that orange intersection. So for the KNUST program, the people that they were working with were primarily the policymakers, the government officials, and they were helping them get skills in analyzing data. So they were working in this green intersection, and that's really important. They're not just waiting, sitting back and having people come to them and then analyzing their data. They're actually going into those intersections, collaborating with the data decision makers to upskill them, and again, working in those intersections of data-driven development. In the third project we heard about from Professor Ganguli, one of their partners, the National Institute for Wind Energy and Renewable Energy, they produce the data. And so part of their MOU with the Calcutta Stat Lab and Data Science Lab was to figure out ways to make that data more useful, to clean up the data, to get access to that data. And so in that case, Calcutta was working in that pink intersection. They were working with the data producers. Just as in the case with UI, NIWE is also a policymaker. So Calcutta, based on the results of their analyses and the results of their analyses on the better data, they actually are also working in that orange three-way intersection. So that's what I think is really a key idea, is that as statisticians, we are data analyzers. If we're working in national statistics offices, we are the data producers. If we can work, however, with the data decision makers as well in that intersection, we'll have a lot more potential to positively impact data-driven development and sustainable development. So I want to get to the point of kind of why all of us are here together. We're all part of the LISA 2020 network. And so the LISA 2020 network has a vision to build statistical analysis and data science capacity to transform evidence into action. And our goal, and this has been a long time goal, so our goal as of 2012 was to create a network of 20 stat labs in developing countries by the year 2020. So that was 8 years in the making. Of course, it's 2021 now. So did we reach our goal? You're going to have to wait to the next slide for that. Before I get to that, I want to talk about what really a stat lab does. So UI, KNUST-LISA, and the University of Calcutta, they are examples of stat labs that do three things. They train statisticians and data scientists to become effective interdisciplinary collaborators who are able to move between theory and practice. So they're able to move between theory and practice to use their theoretical knowledge to actually transform evidence into action. And that's really the second role of the stat labs, is it creates a space for collaboration to work with the data producers, the data analyzers, and the data decision makers to be able to transform academic evidence into action for sustainable development. A third thing that stat labs do is they teach short courses and workshops to improve statistical skills in data science and literacy widely throughout their community. So it is 2021, and we have 30 stat labs in our network. Last year, we had 28, and we've added two more this year. There are currently, I think, there's one stat lab that's under vote to become the 31st member, and then there are 17 other stat labs still in the process. So altogether, our network has 48 labs. 30 of them are full members. If you are interested more in LISA 2020 and transforming evidence into action, we have our website, lisa2020.org, and as well as an email, lisa2020@colorado.edu. So I want to thank you for attending this session, and of course thank Professor Olubusoye and Professor Adebanji and Professor Ganguli for their excellent case studies in how statisticians and data scientists can transform evidence into action. Thank you.